2 weeks later, a man on foot, striding with purpose but infirm as well, striding for destiny but feared of it withal, striding to England's ancient citadel. The man sees ahead the town looms large, striding forward to meet the fates, striding to crush the ancient hates, striding through broad Winchester's gates. Many recognise but none dare arrest, striding where no rebel's face has been shown, striding into the hallowed zone, striding right up to William's throne. Hereward regarded the conqueror, William looked him up and down, both stared at their nemesis, fierce blue into ruthless brown. They looked upon each other thus, for seconds to eternity, then William gave a mighty laugh, and Hereward dropped to one knee. Turfrida's hands clenched into fists, as Hereward laid his hand upon his heart in holy oath, and gave up his dear sweet land. Hail, King, for so you are, no more need you hold me in siege. I acknowledge your right to England's crown, and moreover as my liege. William rose and glanced about, at his barons and his lords, now see one mighty in defeat, unconquered by Norman swords. Courage is as courage is, whether held by Norman or no. I bestow on you the rank of Earl, and the lands that you love so. Thus Hereward rose with joy in his heart, and broke the sword he had lived by. The last man to call Duke William Lord, now sang his praises to the sky. 2 strong men together at last, both unwilling to forget the past, righting wrongs and crushing treason, between Norman and Saxon promoting reason. William comes to trust him more, sends the Wake to spread his lore, sends him to Maine, in Normandy, there we take up our timeless story. In England any talk of rebellion did not the populace arouse. The goodly Bishop of Durham had long since stuck to his vows. That other tough young adventurer, Earl Morcare, the North's very best, had uprooted all his ambition and moved where the sun shines brightest. But a king's power stretched only as far as his hand could reach. Now the lords in France were questing, and Hereward the lesson had to teach. At Maine Turfrida had taken the veil, and for months had been hidden from men, but Hereward hoped when he visited her that she'd remember the time in the fen. Summer's golden rays of pleasance, playing joyfully amongst the leaves, this God's perfect mirroring for, it heaven and nature reaves. So our hero's thoughts were lightened, and he rode in nature's fair trance, but in a blot of black and green, dark eyes spared him many a glance. Turold was also summering in France, and with him were many who, like him, had jealousy added to hate, and longed to run Hereward through. In the very hall of the abbey, Hereward's calm was banished, as out of the shadows came scores of men, led by the one he had vanquished. Hold traitor, for so you are, that hides scorn behind fair smiles, to win our lord and master's favour, to deceive him with your wiles. Said Hereward, Turold, what means this? Is murder and treason your sin? Do you hold no respect for your king, or does your mind burn as hot as your skin? Incensed at reminder of his defeat, Turold near covered valour's lack, but the others needed no spurring on, and straightway moved to attack. Hereward faced about him, and saw the glistening steel. He drew his axe, and round about ferocious blows did deal. The goodly axe swept to and fro, and his enemies fell away. Through their helms and shields with ease the sharpened blade did play. Turold called forward, he is one man, to spur on the sly probing points. They snatched him like dogs at a bear, at his head, his belly, his joints. Sweeping first this way, then that, a cut, a thrust, a duck, averting death with such skill, does he need fickle luck? Minute after minute they fought, till the hall swam with the gore. Sword and spear and mighty axe in soft flesh many times did score. Lashing wildly around about him, his blood mingling with his sweat, Hereward's blade was death's own scythe, settling life's presumptuous debt. Then the axe head shivered, and it moved through Norman bone. When it dropped useless from his hand, Hereward let out a groan. The assassin dogs yapped with glee. Now the bear had lost his claw. They came on even harder, and with a mighty roar. With a mighty roar they came, which changed to a whining whimper, seeing Hereward draw his sword forth, and from him did scamper. So Hereward charged at them, and caught one in the back. A sweep sliced through his kidneys, and caused his spine to crack. He set apart one more sword with his shield, and chopped down at the hostile hilt. Red meat gushed blood in draught amounts, and a war cry took on a new lilt. "Come on, you cowards," Hereward cried, as his shield boss punched into a face, his sword proud to stroke at his upper arm. But how long could he keep up this pace? 15 corpses lay about him, but as the 16th fate was sealed, the sword jammed tight in the body. Turold called, "Hereward, yield!" The Wake spat his defiance, and the slinging his massive shield smote down a blow like heaven's own bolt, and mighty Turold reeled. Inside the helmet the skull broke, and the brains were spattered around. The silence that greeted this titan blow overwhelmed the battle sound. There was a moment's pause, and men forgot their cause. Motionless Hereward stood, as if no one ever could touch the invincible Wake, though his face was a blood cake. His greatest foe lay dead, but his appetite was fed. He did not feel overjoyed at the life he had destroyed. There and then he felt his past, and he recognised at last. Then from torn emotion men sprang into violent motion. Hereward did not care, or perhaps he could not bear, living all that once again, all the hatred and the pain. As the daggers and swords descend, rest assured it is not the end. The Wake was not in vain, for his soul and deeds remain, and for thrice ages when men hark of all the great who made a mark, the name of Hereward will be spoken as something more than a worthless token. Even a Norman on that day was very quietly heard to say that had 3 more such men been present in England then, the Normans would now most certainly be way back home in Normandy. And so this is the end of Norman fears. No need to cover Torfrida's tears. The man was most certainly one of the greatest England shall see.